Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday morning for the Bank on Washington 2026 kickoff celebration. We are in 2026. Somehow we're already in the second quarter of 2026. But I so appreciate everybody touching base this midway point between our last 2025 Bank on Washington Forum and getting the wheels running, getting the wheels up to speed for the 2026 Bank on Washington Forum. Before we get too deep in the weeds, just a little bit of welcome and housekeeping from us here at FEN, and then we have a fun agenda full of learning and collaboration together. So let's dive on in. If you're here for the kickoff, you're in the right space. First and foremost, please, if you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat. The chat will be active. Please keep it open and somewhere you can see it. Emoticons are also a part of our culture and welcome to be used. If you're seeing this in the future, hi, we recorded this for you. If you're seeing this now, you'll notice this webinar is recorded. And just for a little bit of info as folks are getting comfortable with Zoom, if your camera is on, you are not part of the recording. If you talk, you will be part of the recording. So welcome, everybody. We welcome you to participate in the level that you feel comfortable. And as I mentioned, the chat is our primary mode of communicating with folks who are in the room. So please add your questions as they come up. This will be our primary spot to collect questions, both for our presenter, David, as well as for the request for presentation proposals, which will take up the second half of our day. If I'm talking a little bit too fast or I mumble a little bit, the closed captions are available for everybody. Take a minute and engage any accessibility requirements that you may need. If you have questions, the FEN team is in the chat, happy to help to the best of our abilities. All right. And for folks who are new to FEN, who might have joined this call to learn more about our request for presentation proposals, or because you're a fan of David Rothstein, or just because you have an hour free with us, FEN connects and equips advocates and providers to advance financial thriving across Washington. Together, we are creating a Washington where financial justice is fully practiced, and communities have the power, resources, and relationships needed to build generational pathways for financial thriving. We do this by making friends. We do this by elevating awesome people in forums like this and at annual events like our annual forum. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. If you are new to FEN and want to get engaged in our amazing roadmap of ways to get engaged with FEN as built by the wonderful Mai, we have the Washington Financial Coaching Network, regular workshops, the FEN Mini, which is in your inboxes regularly, as well as Bank on Washington events, like the ones that you are here, as well as our annual forum. And you are here in the Bank on Washington event, but there's a bridge to the annual forum. I'll dive into that more here in a minute, but as we're getting going, we do have our eyes on the forum. Okay, as everybody's looking at your calendars, I wanted to make sure that we have something on your radar. On Thursday, April 30th, we are so excited to bring you the third and final installment of our spring workshop series, Navigating Money, Banking, Benefits, and Mental Illness, What You Need to Know. Recordings of the previous two workshops are available on our YouTube page. They are excellent. And if you're tight on time, join this one at the end of the month. And the recordings are not necessary to join this conversation, but are excellent resources regardless. A few weeks after that, in May, we want to invite you back to our next Bank on Washington event. What happens on the call inside Washington's homeownership and foreclosure support system with experts from the Washington Homeownership Resource Center, as well as Parkview Services, giving us the inside track on how to help folks stay in their homes and keep homes within families whenever possible. And I get to say this in a meeting. Save the date, please. September 2nd and 3rd in Tacoma, Washington will be the 2026 Bank On Annual Forum. I'm so excited about this. We'll talk more about what this means, the structure, and all of the ways that we're asking for engagement. But not included on the slide, I'm happy to announce that our theme this year is building, bear bridges over barriers. Lots of B words in here. I so appreciate everybody helping us put this together behind the scenes. If you are a member of the Bank on Washington planning team, can I ask you to sound off in the chat with some emoji or celebratory words so everybody can show our love and appreciation for our planning team? And lastly, before we get into the heart of our conversation, we want to say thank you to our cornerstone sustaining partner. WaFd Bank has been a longtime supporter and helps us put on amazing events like this, as well as all of the workshops that I mentioned earlier. We are happy to be partners both in heart, mind, and spirit with WaFd Bank. Okay. We're about to do some learning, then we're going to do some talking, and we're going to have fun together. To do that in a way that feels honest and with dignity, we have a couple of community agreements. We ask that everybody engage with respect and humanity. We will not tolerate hateful, discriminatory, or harmful language. We try and use I statements whenever possible. I try and use I statements whenever possible. We do our best to be aware of impact, not just the intent of our actions. And as I mentioned earlier, facilitators are in the room, in the chat, and happy to be of assistance. Please private message us if something can be done to support you. And we reserve the right to remove participants to maintain community safety. Okay. I get to hit pause because, I'm very, very excited. Thank you so much to our presenter for the day, David Rothstein with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, Bank on National Superstar and Smart Person. I am so very excited to turn the floor over to David and check out all of the cool things that have happened in the chat while I pass along. For more information and for other ways to stay engaged, finwa.org is your best friend. Bookmark it, put it in your browser, make sure that it's open. All right. Stopping to share my screen and reorganizing things. Hi, everybody. I am going to invite David to share his screen share a presentation and walk us through the Bank on National Data Hub. David, I'm going to spotlight you and make this so everybody can see you. Go for it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you, Jennifer, for inviting me to jump on here and talk a little bit about the National Bank On movement at the CFE Fund, and also very specifically the Bank On Data Hub. Making data exciting is my lifelong mission. It's something that I've done or tried to do in all phases, whether it's as an adjunct teacher or at the workplace, and now, of course, with my teenage kids who just love that, right? So please ask questions though, and I'll also, like Ryan, I'll look at the chat as much as I can. The other thing I wanted to say too is I sent the very few slides that I have, I sent those to Ryan. So don't feel like you have to frivolously like scratch and take notes and do screen records and take pictures. I promise that we'll get you all of this stuff. And if you need other things, I'll get you those too. So again, I'm David Rothstein. I'm a senior principal with the CFE Fund. I've led the National Bank On program for 9 years now in May, which is crazy to me. We've grown so much, and it's been just incredibly exciting to talk about that. When I started this work, I mean, we could list on one PowerPoint slide the number of financial institutions that had certified bank on accounts, right? There were like 5. So the fact that we're 500 plus accounts, spanning, more than 60% of US bank branches, it's crazy to me. It's exciting, but it's also really a reflection on coalitions like you all, because, we wouldn't have certified banks like Columbia and Pacua Bank without people like you. Like it's just we wouldn't even know who they were, right? So it's really a reflection on all of the groups that are part of this movement. I'm going to talk very specifically today about what's known as the Bank on National Data Hub. And let me just, I am going to share my screen here so that everybody can kind of see these slides. This was, in my opinion, one of the biggest achievements of all of the work that we've done to date. And the reason I say that is um, when we started this work, it was made very clear to us that uh, a big one of the biggest challenges that was out there was trying to uh, get data from all the different financial institutions that were reporting. And it wasn't easy. And one of the things that we, were very open about was that it would be very hard for individual coalitions to be able to, do this on their own, right? And we felt like if we nationalized this effort, it would make it much easier for financial institutions to report. So take like Chase Bank, for instance. I mean, they're in a gazillion markets. Like they wouldn't be able to just report data, to one or two coalitions. It was too hard. It was a collective action problem. And so we approached the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis to do a partnership. And they, at the time, were running what was known as like their financial well-being portfolio, really measuring people's income, savings, bank account access, and how that impacts their lives. So we really felt like this was a good fit. And so what we did is with the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, we brought together five financial institutions, some really big and some medium size, to pilot what it would be like to report data. And the data that we were interested, well, to be clear, we were interested in all the data, but we were really receptive to the fact that financial institutions said some data that we have is measured differently than what other financial institutions measure. And so it took a really long time to standardize the data effort. And by that, I mean, some questions that we get, which are great questions, are, what's the profitability rate of this particular account? Well, Bank of America is going to measure profitability of this account in a very different way than a small two-branch credit union, right? So we really had to hone in on what could be measured by each financial institution. And so we came up with 18 data points that only apply to the bank on certified accounts, not to all of their checking accounts. This is only data that that financial institutions have on their bank on accounts. We also wanted to localize the data, which I'm going to show you in just a minute here. So we wanted them to report the data in aggregate form, meaning it was all totaled, but we wanted it by zip code, which was the lowest level of data that we could ask for, um, so that we could actually look for trends and map out this data and not just have it at a national level. The other thing that was really cool, without getting into the weeds on this, is it's streamlined data collection. We don't ask for this data every month. It's once a year. It's easy for them to submit because, of course, they submit data to the Federal Reserve Bank anyway. So, they upload this data once a year, and it gives us that snapshot from the past year. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis also produces an annual report, which is publicly available, which I have a link to that I'll share with you. And then they give us the raw data for us to actually, we created a data tool that allows you all to play with this data at the local, county, state, national level. Um, the other really cool thing about this data is that it does allow year-to-year comparison. So we can look and say, oh, well, the direct deposit rate has improved steadily over the last 5 years, or something to that effect. It allows these kinds of comparisons. And then one of the restrictions on the data, which I think is important, is that you can't identify financial institutions by their name or who they are. All of the data is aggregated by zip code, which means if you were to come to me and say, I'd love to know what Columbia Bank has done in the Seattle market. I can't tell you that. And that was a protection that we put into place because this isn't supposed to be a CRA exercise or a Better Business Bureau kind of secret shopping study. This is really supposed to be about the movement. And so that's data that you can, access perhaps by contacting that, a financial institution directly to get that data. The other thing, and this is once again one reason why local data is so important. Um, for financial, we only have of the 500 certified financial institutions, we only have I believe it's 46 who report data to the system. And what I mean by local really matters is in order to unlock a zip code and report the data, there has to be three financial institutions that report data in that zip code. So, credit unions, local banks, they really matter in this. Otherwise, we can't report those zip codes. And it automatically kicks you up to a higher level, like a city level or a county level. So it is really important to get as many financial institutions to report as possible because this is a voluntary effort. We don't, you can have a certified account and not report the data. So let me tell you a little bit about what we know. So the 2024 data, which is the 2025 report, showed some really interesting statistics. First, it was very representative of the market. We had 45 financial institutions that reported data to the Bond Hub, and that represented about 91% of all US zip codes. So, yes, it's true we want to unlock every zip code possible, but we are in pretty good shape more and more now. In terms of the number of bank on accounts that were opened, 4.8 million people opened a new account in 2024, and there were more than 14 million open and active accounts in the year of 2024. So, again, and that's just a snapshot. There's obviously millions more that are out there, but of course, we can only go off of what is being reported back to us. Some interesting stats that I like to talk about that are interesting to us. Most account holders were digitally active. One third of account holders were also using direct deposit, which is a very interesting stat because it cuts both ways. One, it tells us that people are using this account as their primary bank account because they're getting direct deposit. But two, it tells us that two-thirds of people are making deposits with cash and check, which is actually so if you were a financial institution who was really looking at like middle income customers, you wouldn't be necessarily thrilled with that statistic because direct deposit is the holy grail of banking access for especially for higher income customers. However, we know that unbanked and underbanked customers are still getting paid in cash and check. And so the fact that we have customers who are taking cash and check, going to a bank or credit union branch and manually depositing that money into their bank account tells us that they really, really value this account, which is really exciting for us. And so we know that $260 billion was deposited into bank on accounts in 2024. The average monthly account balance has increased every year. It's up to over $1,200 a month on a account balance, which, I want to be a little cautious here because for anyone who's had to sit through a statistics course, that average is not maybe the best statistic when dealing with a lot of variance in the numbers, which there's a lot of variance in account balances. I mean, there are some people that have a bank on account that have, a 600, $6,000 monthly balance. And there are some who have a $50 monthly balance. So there's a lot of variance there. So I just want to be cautious about that stat. But it does tell us, and it answers a question that we get asked all the time, which is, aren't these accounts just a way for somebody to take their tax refund and move it into an account and then take all the money out in cash? That's not what we're seeing in these accounts. These are accounts that are being used on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the average debit card use for these accounts is close to 30 swipes a month, which is very telling that people are using this account like any other checking account. Of course, they're not writing checks because the vast majority of these accounts are checkless checking. So they're using their debit card or P2P transactions or ATM transactions. Um, so those are just some of the stats that we can measure with the usage of the Bank On Data Hub. And again, the more data, the more financial institutions reporting, the better we are. So of course, the call to action, I'm jumping the gun here, but the call to action is to get your financial institutions to voluntarily and freely report to the Bank On National Data Hub. Um, this is a link, two links. One is to the Federal Reserve's of St. Louis, their report that they put out, which has a lot of aggregate statistics, some of the things that I just mentioned. And then the other link is to our tool, which I'm going to show you in a second here, which allows you to really locally hone in and play around with some of these stats. So let me first, before I go on, let me just ask for questions or feedback or comments on kind of our National Bank on Data Hub project.
I see
It's
a question in the chat, but it's for Jennifer. Go for it if you want to go to come off mute. This is a conversation.
Just curious about the cycle of when the next data will be available.
Yeah, that's a great question. So two things on that. The first is usually the data gets reported, or the contracts are signed with financial institutions in May, I believe. And so the data starts coming in around then, and it generally gets released in the fall, as a report. So we are always a year off. Not a ton we can do about that. We've talked about doing like semi-annual updates and some of those kind of things. But one of our and you guys as a coalition, I'm sure can relate to this. At least I think, we try to keep the demands and requests on our financial institution partners low because again, this is a voluntary effort, and so we really are, cognizant of the fact that if we require them to show data every month, we're going to put ourselves in a spot where they don't want to do it anymore, right? Let's maybe play around with the data, right? Like data's fun-ish. Let's see here. So let me share again. So again, this is from our website, and anyone is obviously welcome to use this at any point. Um, Let me just move this over here. So what I've done here, just to start with, is I did King County, which I know is very cherry picking, and probably, that gets done all the time. But up here, where it says state name and county, I did Washington and then King County. I didn't select any particular cities yet. They're all selected, as you can see here, and same with zip codes. And what this allows you to do is start looking at what your data looks like at the county level. So you can see that the number of accounts ever opened is above 155,000 for that county. Number of accounts newly opened is only for this particular year at over 32,000. New account customers to the financial institution is at 85%. And if you ever wondered like a little more detail about what these variables mean, what these data points are, you can hover over the question mark next to them and it'll tell you exactly what we're trying to measure here. Um, and what's really cool is you can look at the data report from the Federal Reserve Bank or this database, and you can do some quick comparisons. So, for instance, I can tell you that your account closure rate of under 10% is better than the national average. So, your financial institutions are keeping people in their accounts at a better rate compared to the national average. Your new account customers new to the institution is right around the average. The national average is, I think, 86%. So you're like right on it, right? You're above on direct deposit. So your direct deposit rate is 38%. That's above the 33% marker, which is exciting. And so again, you can do some of these compare and contrasts things. Um, Also, I can look at this and already know that accounts using online bill pay, where it says online access, nearly 5%, that's higher than the national average. You've got people that are paying their bills online at a higher average than the national average, which hovers at like 2.5%. If you ever wanted to quickly see what those national numbers look like, you could go to clear all filters and go back, and this should give you the national average here. It just takes, sometimes it takes a second to reset. Yeah, it's still showing King County here. There we go. Sometimes it just takes a little second to reset. So as I mentioned, you're below the, remember that you guys, your account's newly closed percentage was at like 9%, and the national average is right at 15. The new account customers new to the financial institution, you are slightly higher. I thought we were at 85% nationally. It's actually at 84. So that helps. You can see that the accounts using online bill pay is at 3%, and you guys were higher than that, that we mentioned. So again, you can do some of this. If also, as I mentioned, you could get pretty specific here, which is kind of cool. So you could select Washington. So you could do a state level approach. That's true. You could do what's a good rural county that you guys have that would be good to look at?
Let's Yakima's the go-to, but any
Sure. Why not? Yeah. So you can see some of the differences here. Um, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to call this up because I think this usually happens in some of the rural counties. If you look at new customers to the institution, 96%, that really is a cool proxy. It's not that 96% of people that open these accounts were unbanked completely, but it is a pretty good indicator that they didn't have a great banking relationship to start with, and that's why they're opening this account. And that's a really high percentage, which is pretty cool. Um, a very high direct deposit usage, which is interesting. We don't always see that in rural counties, well above the third percentage. And you could even hone in more. You could grab a particular zip code. And again, it has to have three financial institutions reporting in that zip code. I just randomly clicked that one, and you can really hone in on this Heights area. We are in constant discussions about adding more data points. Um, Again, the biggest challenge is we always want to make sure that everybody can measure it. Um, any questions on this part of the data hub feature or any explanations on any of these variables and what they mean and how they're actually measured?
we got two requests to look at Mason County in the chat, and also what that means for other places that are very rural.
Yeah, so again, the one of the challenges with this is that we need three financial institutions reporting. So what would happen is if Mason County didn't have three financial institutions reporting data, which it does because it came up for us, it would just show you no numbers on this, and you'd have to go up a link. And so that could happen at the city level, and then you have to go to the county level, or it could happen at the zip code level, and then you have to go to the city level. But here are the Mason County numbers. So something is definitely funky with the data because it says that 103% percentage for new account customers to the institution. You certainly can't have over 100% new to the financial institution. This happened in the state of New York in the Syracuse market. So what this means, and it's really hard to check on this, but what this means is one of the financial institutions that reported data to us probably mislabeled their data headings to us. And instead of labeling the correct way and saying, here were the total new accounts, they labeled it as new customers, not just new accounts. And that tends to be what happens when that percentage is high. It's nearly impossible to test for all of these. So if you ever run into this, um, definitely reach out to us and we will fix it. But just given the thousands of zip codes, it's impossible for us to test each one. We actually tried to use AI to do that, and it did find some for us, but it's definitely a little bit of a work in progress. We only updated this site a couple months ago, so we're still in the process of finding these kinks. And this is the only variable that we've had issues with, which is, and it's because there are two or three large banks, or well, more like medium-sized banks that mislabeled those two headings that have caused all of these issues. And actually, I thought it was more in the Midwest and Mideast, but it does actually make sense because I know who it is and they have some branches in your market.
An
We'll
excellent
not
reminder
rat
that we are
them
recorded.
we'll not rat them out by name. They're a very good financial institution and a great partner, but just a mislabeling.
Hmm. Wonderful. I also am aware that there are 29 people who have this tool open and are all refreshing it at the same time. So refresh rates are. Hope
Yeah,
your Wi-Fi is good, everybody.
yeah, one of the things that we've talked about is potentially, and we haven't decided fully on this, is maybe offloading this and not hosting this through our website. This is a free GIS kind of program. It's an open source kind of thing. As we continue to build out this data and get more financial institutions reporting, we have had a lot of discussions about building it out.
Wonderful. I always love playing with this tool. It's one of my favorite things that the bank on national team has put together. I so
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Yeah, and again, it's a work in progress. One of the things that you all can do as a coalition is continue to strongly encourage your financial institution partners to report if they don't. I'm happy to provide a list of anyone in the state of Washington who is reporting. Um, I think sometimes there's a misnomer that if you're a smaller bank, you don't need to report. It doesn't help. As you guys just saw, especially in some of these rural areas, it's critical that they report. Otherwise, we don't have a complete picture of what's going on. Um, so I will send you a list of the anyone who has branches or data in Washington. The largest financial institutions generally report. So Chase, Bank of America, Citi, Key, um, uh, U.S. Bank, they all report. And then, it's just a matter of getting some of the local ones to report too.
Wonderful. There is one other question in the chat that I want to host here in the space. Looking at the time, we do have time for it. How do we know? You answered this a little bit. There might be a list of Washington reports, but I wanted to ask if there was a self-guided tool that you wanted to shout out at the moment.
There is not a self-guided tour. We one of the we did so there's a couple of different ways to look at it. The first is one of the things that we did is we created those, as I showed you, those little question mark things next to each of the data things that will tell you exactly how the data is measured, like what it means. Like if you're like, wait, what does frequency of withdrawals per month mean? You can hover over that question mark and it'll tell you it's the total number of withdrawals per month, right? Um, there is also, we do have some recorded webinars that are available through some of the tools that our coalition team has. They're either on listservs or as part of the Bank on Academy journey that you can look to. One of the interesting things, and I don't know if this is what was meant in the question in the chat, one of the interesting things is that you can like people interpret this data in different ways, right? Um, and so we're always anxious and excited to bounce those ideas and questions off each other because I mentioned that direct deposit statistic, right? A financial institution is not nearly as excited about a 33% direct deposit rate as we are in the community, right? Because that, that statistic tells us, I mean, we know from our communities that a lot of people, unfortunately, are not getting direct deposit. They're not eligible for it. They're working for a landscaping company that doesn't provide it. They're in and out of work, so they don't have that consistent setup. You know, the fact that they're not using direct deposit isn't an indication of primacy of using the account. It's that they don't have it. So the fact that they're still making a lot of deposits into this account is really, really a good sign for us. But that data point caused a lot of confusion early on with financial institutions because they felt like that meant that people weren't treating this account as their primary bank account. And so we had to really think about what was going on there and also look at other data points to piece it together. So it's a lot of these data points are a good conversation starter too.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. I so appreciate that. I'm looking at the clock. We do need to hold some
Of
space
course.
for our Bank on Washington forum. But David, could I ask you to pop your email in the chat and also maybe
Oh
share a
yeah, of
link
course. I left that.
for those
Yeah,
folks who want to
absolutely.
ask you more questions?
I inconveniently left that off the PowerPoint, and it was not on purpose.
We will
Yeah,
include it
feel
as a
free to
follow-up.
reach out at any time. I look forward to seeing you all at events and other pieces in the near future. And just let me know, yeah, let me know what you're hearing, what you're thinking. I'm always willing, and I have team members too that are doing these meetings, always willing to meet with a financial institution and talk to them about the benefits of reporting. One of the things that sometimes it's just catching the right people. You need sometimes you need somebody from legal to be part of it. It's not just a community affairs specialist who can make that decision themselves. It's often, a few people on a financial institution staff to get it going. And we have us and the team at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis have gotten this down pretty well about, enrolling.
Wonderful. Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, David. Thanks everybody
Of course.
for having data conversations. I love them, and I'm also aware that I'm weird. Wonderful. So we have about 20 minutes left of our day. I want to spend this time forecasting the Bank on Washington Forum and also holding space for Q&A around our request for presentation proposals. Before we do that, though, we're going to do something very, very different, and our friends have been asking for this for a while. Jennifer, do you want to mention anything about our after forum event at this point in our meeting today?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited. As Ryan said, we have had some requests over the years for conversations around, the work that we do, financial wellness, financial coaching, financial inclusion. Funding and support for it comes and goes. Sometimes it's the hot new thing, and sometimes it's not. And so we have heard from our partners that there's been interest in having conversations about what it looks like for us in Washington to work towards sustainability together. And so we are very excited that on the Friday after the Bank on Washington Forum, so Friday, September 4th, we'll be hosting a conversation with Valeriana and Alex, who many of you may remember were speakers at last year's forum. Our event is titled Abundance in Action, Sustainability in Our Sector. And it's meant to be a conversation for organizations that are facing funding challenges, leadership transitions, staffing shortages, to really come together and explore what it looks like, leaning into an abundance framework, what it looks like for us to sustain our work at our organizations and together. There will be more information coming soon, but we want folks to know it'll be a half-day event on that Friday, so save the date along with the Bank on Washington Forum. Thanks, Ryan.
Absolutely. As Jennifer mentioned, more information to come there, and also add additional context as we are shaping up what will be in the forum and what do we need to build around the forum to have equally important conversations. Okay. With the time that we have remaining, I want to be useful for folks who are considering putting in a presentation proposal for our Bank on Washington 2026 forum. For folks who might be looking for some links, here are a bunch of them. We have a frequently asked question page for the forum itself with as much details as we know at the moment. This will be the place where we update logistical things, and we'll put the registration information and hotel information, all of those things. So please bookmark our BOA FAQ on your browser and keep that updated. The other two resources that will be relevant for today, we will take a look at our agenda here in a minute. But as this gets updated, thank you for putting this in the chat. As this gets updated, the agenda page will be the place where things become finalized, and the request for proposal presentation document itself will be is available here, and we'll talk through that at probably light speed, but we'll touch on it. Before we dive into sort of the context of or the specific logistics of the forum, I want to open up one thing that we are doing this year that is slightly different from last year. We've tried this in previous years. We are hosting communities of action, is what we are calling our learning tracks. So a major function, a major structure of the 2026 forum is that our communities of action will be one of the primary vehicles that people will be having conversations and learning together. During time on the agenda where you see organized by communities of action, these are areas that will be determined by the sessions that we receive. The piece that we know for certain is that there will be learning breakout sessions. We also know that those breakout sessions may or may not overlap with everybody's interest at the forum. And so exhibitors and tables, and I didn't catch this communities of learning that should have been updated, but this time will also be a space for learning and catching up with individual conversations as needed. And then we're also just aware that we are all humans, and we plan accordingly. Quick update on dates or forecast on dates. We are asking for presentation proposals to be turned into hello@fenwa.org by April 27th. That's a Monday. I will pull all of the proposals into a folder and start working on them like at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. So if that informs how and when you use your time, that's fantastic. The week following that, we will be convening a review team from our planning team, as well as maybe a few other interested stakeholders to review all of our proposals, so that it's not you don't have to impress Ryan. You have to impress more than just Ryan. And we intend to respond to the proposals that y'all submit on or before May 15th. Okay. I am going to actually trust everybody to review the agenda on your own, and instead I'm going to quickly open the RFP itself. Zooming in a little bit. I am not going to go through this word for word, but I just wanted to give an overview of the sections to make sure that everybody's seeing things together. The first page is about us and the event, about FEN and the Bank on Washington Forum. Links aplenty, information available, as well as links to prior agendas and programs of previous years. The request itself, what we are asking for you as presenters or proposals, likely an hour, maybe a little bit longer, open format within these 4 distinct learning tracks that I will dive into here in a little bit. But just quick overview: immigrants and refugees, continuum of housing stability, financial health is healthcare, banking, and resource deserts are sort of the communities of action that we have landed on this year. The next section, we want to know about you. You'll note here, primary presenter. We ask for a person. We are asking for a person to be their lead contact for this request for presentation. That does not exclude other presenters, but we just want a single point of contact. A little bit about you. More information is wonderful. The next section is the information about the presentation itself. We're asking for a little bit of information about what you're hoping to present. And then lastly, submission selection process, which is a little bit more information on what I just walked through on the previous slides. Okay, where are we? Here we are, back to present. Okay, light speed, going through our communities of action. I'm actually just going to focus on our value statements. We are organizing these based on feedback that we got from our planning team and also from the surveys from the last forum. Immigrants and refugees, our Washington, the Washington that we live in, that we embody, that we see as the place where we want to live, values the open hospitality of a nation of immigrants. The continuum of housing stability, our Washington, the place where we want to live, values stable housing as a base for financial health. Financial health is healthcare. Our Washington, the place where we want to live, values the whole person, recognizing the role that finances play in our physical and mental health. And banking and resource deserts, our Washington values access to financial health services in all corners of the state and tribal lands. This one piece that I want to add here is that while this is primarily thinking about geography, we know that if you live right across the street from a bank, but they don't have the resources that you're looking for, do you still live across from a bank, or do you live across from a building that calls itself a bank? So all of the difficulties that people have in finding the resources that should be available to them, but for whatever reason are hard to find or limited. Oh boy. I want to leave time for Q&A. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat for folks to review all of the guiding questions, the sessions availability, and the audience. I want to dive through the connection points. Immigrants and refugees has been one of the most requested in feedback from the last forum. We're asking for presentations that speak to best practices or collected actions for the audience to support immigrant families. Our continuum of housing stability, once again, narrowing in on connection points. Homeownership related sessions have been featured in the last 4 forums. We are asking for presentations that highlight the causal relationship between stable housing as renters and as owners and long-term financial health. So this is including both cost burden renters who are on the homeownership pathway as well as homeowners. Financial health is healthcare. The connections between financial health and mental health has been discussed in multiple spaces across FEN and Bank on Washington. We are asking for presentations addressing interventions between financial health and either mental and or physical health outcomes. And lastly, banking and resource deserts. This topic has been touched on in previous Bank on Washington sessions, but not addressed directly. We're asking for presentations with examples of increasing financial health or financial access to banking and financial health resources in areas that are often overlooked in resource distribution. That sentence could have been done better, but we're moving forward regardless. Okay. That was a top speed. I hope everybody engaged closed captions earlier. As always, let me quickly drop the slides themselves if they're not already there. They're already there. I love this. So in our closing minutes, questions on either the format of the forum, questions on things that might be in one tract or another, open thoughts. Those might be harder to wrap our head around, but questions first. Rebecca, please go for it.
Yes, I was just wondering if the Abundance in Action is going to be held in Tacoma as well.
Same place, same venue.
Okay, thank you. And is there a, I didn't read very deeply yet, is there a hotel near there in case we don't want to drive from Snohomish County to Tacoma every day?
We generally do have a hotel block, discounted rates. That will be available on or around the time that we open registration, which should be in June.
Okay, and random question, does anybody know how to make me not upside down?
Generally, that involves vampirism, but beyond that, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Other questions? Concerns? Ideas that are on the back burner and you want a space to think about them? Rebecca, I see that you re-raised your hand. Go for it.
I did. So I don't have a topic I would like to present, but I do have one I would like to see presented.
Ooh, I think those are wonderful. Tell me more.
I will. So I find as a financial coach that selling, I don't want to say selling, but encouraging people to go do the bank on process and everything, I don't have enough like hands-on, here's 3 places that you can go to accomplish this. This is what it looks like type of thing to walk them through so that they're not nervous when they get there. So just having a presentation on expectations, maybe flyers and processes that can be handed out at the forum so that we can actually get people moving toward this in a more simple way, I guess. I don't have time to study up on everything. I would like to.
Wonderful. Multiple members of the planning team are here, and that is an absolute central part of Bank on Resources. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Wonderful. Reviewing the chat for questions that I might have missed. We have 6 minutes left. I want to open the space. Okay. For folks who might be pondering an idea, or for folks in the future who are watching this recording, my email is always open for questions. I believe my scheduling email is around here somewhere. Folks can grab some time on my calendar and ideate on what feels right. And more than anything else, we are we want this to be reflective and a useful 2 days of learning. So as there are questions that you have, thoughts of sessions that could be, don't be a stranger.
Ryan, can I just also add,
Yes, please.
please, if you are not sure that you have something you want to say, number 1, I bet you do have something interesting to say. But number 2, please share this with your networks. If you have a question, or if you heard what Rebecca said and thought, oh, I know somebody who could speak to that, share the RFP with them, because we really want this to be spread far and wide so that we are hearing about all the good work that's happening. Like Ryan said, we have a planning team that is available that will be helping us review proposals. So it's really not just about us. We're trying to get a broad perspective on the work we do. So please, please help us spread the word. We know some people, but we know the 27 of you who know a whole bunch more people. So that is our goal for this process.
Yes. I see a question in the chat around Go West. we have been friends in passing and have collaborated in the past. I don't think that they have spoken at the forum, and I don't think that they have been a sponsor in the past either.
I wonder if they'd be good because they do grants for credit unions, and the grants revolve around collaborating with nonprofits and community to create, housing programs, business, lending programs. And they have examples of what's worked, and it's not just Washington, but it's, Idaho, Arizona. And so I wonder if that would help give people ideas and kind of just generate that momentum of like, oh, look at these other places have done in collaborating. And so I'll share it with them.
Yes, please. Yeah. This reminds me of another point that I think we've mentioned, but not in this space. Just because we're bugging one of our friends doesn't mean that you shouldn't too. Please, advocacy for multiple directions. All good things. Okay. It is 3 minutes till the top of the hour. Last call. Questions, comments, concerns. Okay. Then before everybody jumps off, please take a minute and let us know what you thought about today's workshop. Primarily thinking about the learning that we got to join with David and Bank on National Data Hub. Also, if you have thoughts in general, please feel free to add them in any meeting with us or in an email heading our way. All right, everybody. Everybody in the future watching this recording, stay safe, stay awesome. See you at the next one.